All right, good evening. Welcome to the Monday, January 23rd, 2023 Board of Selectmen Highway and Cemetery Commissioners meeting. As always, as we call this meeting to order, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Acceptance of the minutes. What's the board's pleasure? Mr. Marcy.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of December 22nd, 2022 as written.
Second.
Comments? Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Unanimous. Thank you. Citizens' comments. Does anyone from the crowd have anything they want to talk about that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. Appointments. Records. Sorry, Mr. Marcy? Oh, sorry. Records Access Officer for Police Department. Chief Collins?
Mr. Chairman, this is a standard transition from one police chief to another. So if we get a request for public information for the Freedom of Information Act, anything police related that would, be requested and requires a review, because there could be things that are currently under investigation that wouldn't be necessarily released. Everything police related goes through the police chief.
Okay. Pretty straightforward?
Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Mr.
Marcy.
Chairman, I move that we appoint Chief Marek Karlowitz as our Records Access Officer for the Police Department.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. All right, alternate voting member appointment to the planning board, Dan Edmonston.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mr. Edmondson stepped forward to serve as an alternate to make himself available. We recently had a resignation from the planning board, so the planning board voted to make that recommendation to us, and we would vote to ratify it, to make that appointment.
Okay.
Just for a point of clarification, he's already an alternate. You guys are actually appointing him as a full voting member. The way it's worded in the agenda tonight, it almost seems like that you're appointing him as an alternate. He is an alternate. He's already sworn as an alternate.
So, Mr. Chair, essentially we're appointing him to fill Mr. Wachrover's seat
Correct.
till the next election.
That's how it was transmitted to me, so if that's the case.
Are we allowed to, so because it doesn't match the agenda?
I think it matches. I think we'd be all right to make that
I
appointment.
think the intent.
All right, what's the board's pleasure? Mr. Marcy.
Mr. Chairman, I wholeheartedly approve that we make a motion. I make a motion to approve Dan Edmonston to be a full voting member of the planning board based on their recommendation.
Second, Mr. Chair, and then I welcome Mr. Edmondson back.
Absolutely.
Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Sullivan.
since Mr. Wachrover has graced us with his presence tonight, although he's no longer a member, I want to thank him in person for time and service. We had a tough year getting some projects approved, but most of them started on their desk, and Steve was pretty much 100% attendance. I don't recall missing a meeting, and he's certainly going to be missed, and I wish him well on his endeavors.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Marcy.
Yeah, let's echo that, and also, as we're welcoming Dan back, Dan has a wealth of experience already on the planning board, as we said, and which we absolutely need as we continue to push these projects forward and anything new. So glad you're back, Dan. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda, Town Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I recently spoke with Stevens Mill, our friend Andrew Weddle from Stevens Mill, and that was last week, to get an update on the progress for the project. And they've been proceeding forward with testing and so forth, and there will be there will be some additional public information coming forward. I thought it would be a good time to ask Deb LaPlaca to meet with him and provide some information to the public about the status of that project. There's a slight delay in the demolition, and that's, I believe he said that there was the process for the Federal Parks Department was kind of more delayed than he anticipated, but there have been other things such as testing and, you know, site testing and things that have been ongoing, so Deb's gonna reach out to them and put some information out there just to keep it on the radar screen of our residents. The FY 20 and 21 CDBG Housing Rehabilitation Grant, as the board may recall, the town partnered with the town of Millbury in FY 20 to offer income qualifying home rehabilitation grants. Remember, that was just before COVID hit, and there was a lot of interest. This is a very popular and competitive program that awarded 5 local income qualified homeowners with funding to update and rehabilitate their homes for critical projects such as roof repair, window and door replacement, etc., problems with the heating system, that sort of thing. Of course, as the board recalls, things changed a little bit in FY 20 and many projects were stalled and halted. As of last week, I can report that of the 5 Dudley recipients, 1 project has been completed. A second is under contract, and CMRPC is working to push the remaining 3 along as quickly as possible. In FY 21, we partnered with CMRPC in the Pioneer Valley to offer another round of the housing rehabilitation grants. And that effort continues to be slow to get off the ground. CMRPC is working to push Pioneer Valley along on the small housing rehab component to get that program moving forward. So we've got potentially 10 income qualifying residents that are eligible and ready to move on that project, but beyond the town's control and the residents' control, it's been slightly stalled, but we're pushing. So, on track, but pretty well behind. The board may recall that the town was awarded a dam and seawall grant for the engineering and design of the removal of Carpenter Pond Dam. The town is working with the engineering firm of PAR to complete design and construction application for the next round and working to meet the deadline to apply for construction component of the grant in February. There's a 25% town match for construction, and the town is proposing to self-perform a lot of that work through our highway department, which should easily exceed that 25% matching component, which will free up additional money within that grant to further the project along. We'd like to see a timeline for that work to begin this fall. However, it looks like it may be more likely to be the summer of 24. In the meantime, we'll continue to queue up additional dam mitigation projects in order of priority to continue to apply for that needed funding. We have 3 dams in town that I believe are rated in poor condition, so we take them in order of priority and just keep moving forward to get that funding. So there will be 4 additional mandatory dam inspections being completed by Power Engineering taking place next week on, actually this week, Tuesday, January 24th and on the 26th. They include Lower Merino Pond Dam, Peter Pond Dam, and Lower Gorn Pond Dam. As part of those inspections, the State Office of Dam Safety requires that the owner demonstrate the operability of the low-level outlets, so Jeff will be meeting them out there on those days, as far as I know. That's still going forward with the weather. We are waiting for the engineers to provide some additional information for the Airport Road Shared Streets and Spaces grant. Jeff expects to have that by next week, and we are realistically looking at a commencement date for that project. That's Airport Road, if all goes as planned, to be spring of 24. We're currently working on a ADA compliant construction application for the town beach. We're working with CMRPC to apply for and secure grants to improve the pathway and the beach house at the town beach to bring it into compliance with ADA. This will include looking at the access both to the beach and to the water and improving accessibility to both, as well as making it more enjoyable for residents. And we also are exploring a Mass Trails grant for the rail trail, and we can expect a betterment request in the near future for an additional road in town. That's St. Anthony Road that was just brought onto the radar screen as we're going through the last round of betterments. But we expect that process to be a little bit more streamlined now that we kind of have a roadmap to follow. So that'll be on a town meeting warrant in the near future, I hope. And then, Mr. Chairman, item 6C on tonight's agenda is related to our success in obtaining a grant from Mass Development for a feasibility study on potential suitable uses for the town-owned land that exists behind the courthouse. I'll be asking for the board to take a simple vote to agree that the town is committed to use the grant money that we receive for its intended purpose, which is a feasibility study, and we don't have any intention of disposing or taking any other action on that land until that feasibility study is completed. And that's something that they request from Mass Development to make sure that their money is being spent wisely. I also don't want to let a meeting go by when we don't talk about these types of grants, where I don't acknowledge the contribution of a town planner, Bill Scanlon and Jeff Murray. These grants are far less than a one-page application, as you can imagine, and there's many meetings and coordination and documentation and review periods that have to take place in order to even become eligible to apply for these grants. So it's certainly not just me, it's through the efforts of both the planner and the highway department and any other departments that help us along the way, assessor's office and so forth, to contribute. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, the board may be aware that I'm a little bit late with my budget season memo this year. We're a few weeks behind. As you are aware, we will be meeting with the Charlton Board of Selectmen and School Committee at the school committee meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. at Charlton Middle School. Based on some additional information that we hope to have at the upcoming meeting, it is likely that we will be looking at the possibility of 2 budgets being presented to town meeting voters, and maybe even a special town meeting, to choose the levels at which they would like to see town services and educational programs continue. This will require additional effort on the part of department heads, as they will be providing 2 separate budgets to be considered with 2 very different outcomes. And my intention is to have that budget memo hopefully completed by the end of this week, based on some additional information we'll get on Wednesday. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for the minister, Mr. Massey?
No, motion to accept the town minister's report.
Mr. Chair, second with a question and a comment.
Go ahead.
The question was, the email that went on, I thought said the school committee meeting was at 6:30.
A subsequent email moved it up to 7.
Okay, then my comment to second what Mr. Ruda said about Bill Scanlon and himself. We talk about grants a lot. I've been up here a lot of years, and a lot of times previous town administrators said we don't qualify, we don't get them. We've been getting them. Fire and EMS is up well over $1 million under Chief Kochanowski. I know the police are always looking for grants, and maybe we don't say it enough, but we certainly appreciate all the efforts that everybody expends to get so-called free money to the town. Just want to acknowledge the people that work extra hard on that effort.
You're here.
Well said.
Can I mention one thing before we go
We're in
to
discussion,
accept?
go ahead.
In some cases, we talked about a matching grant, and in the case of the grant that we're going for, matching funds can equal, a dollar amount placed on equipment and labor and so forth to get that 25% match. In other cases, we require an investment to either have the engineering ready for the so-called shovel-ready projects, or we actually have to contribute a small percentage to that grant amount. But that investment of usually $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 sometimes yields up to $1 million. So as we go into these, what I think will probably be intense budget discussions coming up, we've got to consider that saving 25 will cost us a lot more than that in some cases when we look at these different line items, particularly, program and project design line item.
All right, we have a motion and a second, lots of discussion. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstain? None. Unanimous?
Abstain? No.
No, none. Unanimous. All right, new business. Board of Selectmen vote to approve employee mileage reimbursement increase consistent with IRS standard reimbursement rate from 49 cents per mile to 58.5 cents per mile, or take any other action thereto. Last rate adjustment was over 5 years ago. Mr. Morrissey.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is something that's happening at companies all over the country right now, to adjust that. That's something that's recently happened in my business, so I move that we approve the employee mileage reimbursement increase consistent with IRS standard rates as written.
Second.
Second, discussion?
Just a question, Mr. Chair.
Sullivan.
When an employee is putting in for reimbursement, I don't sign the vouchers anymore. Can the town administrator just explain the process? For example, if employee A puts in for 50 miles, how do we verify they went 50 miles? Who's the ultimate approving paying authority? Not that anybody would do it, but I just want to know how the process works.
So the way through the chair, the way it works, Mr. Sullivan, is that an employee would say, I'm going to Holy Cross for a seminar. And they put in the starting odometer reading and the ending odometer reading, and if it appears reasonable to me, I send it forward.
So it goes through there just for,
Or necessarily if,
Department.
for example, if one of Rich's assistants put in for it, it would go through him and then it would,
okay.
he'd do the same thing.
So the department head is the initial improver? That's my question.
Rich?
Good evening. The best solution, it's been going on for a long while, MapQuest, HitPrint. Like the town administrator mentioned, we're going to the MMA conference. Here it is. You can print out a toll calculator, so on and so forth.
Google now, but you're right.
Right, other than a selfie of someone being at the Heinz Auditorium, we have great employees and there's that level of trust that's implied. Thank you.
Thank you.
And my question wasn't reflecting trust, it's just reflecting actuality.
Process.
Accuracy.
Yeah, of the process.
Mr. Morrissey.
Which brings me up to a question, Jonathan. It's part of like a lot of the payroll and all those other systems. Do we have it going to go to like more automated expense system as well? Because sometimes the mileage gets calculated automatically. Who knows?
Well, we're struggling to, I've been working with the police chief to try to work with IMC, to work with Harper's to get their payroll system more automated, and that's proven to be quite a process.
Okay.
And we'll get there.
Just
We're
something,
moving in
just
those
made me
directions.
think of it,
but-
something we could add as add to the agenda. Right.
Yeah, I don't, getting off the tangent a tad, Mr. Chair, but that's an excellent point by Mr. Massey. We should be down the road, look at the processing for vendor invoices. I know it falls under Rich, which could probably make a presentation or an explanation one night of how things are paid electronically as a check, some other form.
Yeah.
Down the road.
All right, we got a motion, a second, lots of discussion, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Abstained? Unanimous. All right, police department staffing, chief?
If I can give a little background on the first one.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt, Chief. Do you mind if we do this in reverse order? I think it might work out.
Okay. Chief, you okay if we start with number 2?
That's
Start
fine.
with the acting and.
That's fine, yep. So with me getting promoted to chief, they left the vacancy in the lieutenant position. There is a stipulation in the contract that at one point, I can step down to lieutenant position if something should happen. So I'll be asking the board to create a vacancy as an acting lieutenant for up to that 1 year. The 3 officers that are running for the lieutenant position are sergeants, so one of them would also move up. So I would ask that the board approves an acting lieutenant and also an acting sergeant for the period of up to 1 year until my probation is over.
Mr. Chairman.
Sullivan.
Chief, good to see you. So, we have a existing list in place, right? for lieutenant, for example. And last time, the number one candidate declined.
Correct.
So, if, my opinion, if the list is still in effect, which it is, if the number one candidate doesn't want it again, I think we need, just in the beginning, we need something in writing saying he's not considering it, because generally we follow the process of a list, right? So that's my first thing. And then the second one, I wholeheartedly support the interim staffing in the police department to keep the command structure in place. But I just want to make sure we follow the process and we get a, like the last time we had to get a decline letter from the first candidate. So I just think as a matter of precedent, we should, if it's not going to be him, I'm not even sure it's going to be. But if it's not going to be number one, then we need to know that he's not interested.
Yeah, we have done an assessment for the lieutenant position, which is a little over a year ago, but it's still active. And we did an assessment for the sergeant's process, which is still also active. So I can go along with the way the process went last time and present that to the board.
Right. I just want to make sure we have all our i's and dots.
Okay. So what's the board's pleasure? Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we declare a vacancy for the lieutenant position, acting lieutenant and acting sergeant. Is that what you wanted, Jonathan, to do, just the process of the positions?
Vote to declare vacancies and act on and we did run this through town council, that's why I'm reading and put it on the agenda. Declare vacancies and act on a recommendation of police chief and to schedule vote for appointments on the next Board of Selectmen agenda or take any other action relative thereto.
Okay, the word process threw me off, so, okay. So moved what Jonathan said.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous.
And part two of that, to create a fourth sergeant position, I'll give you a little background on it. About 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, when I first started, when I was a young officer with not so much gray hair, our department had 16 full-time officers. We had 4 sergeants, and at one point we added a lieutenant position. We currently have 16 full-time officers, 3 sergeants, and 1 lieutenant position. So what I'm asking is, I'm asking to go back to where we were over 20 years ago. And part of that is, as an officer, I didn't really notice it, but as a manager, especially since last year when I was a lieutenant, I noticed the importance of having a sergeant in that role. Currently, we have a day shift sergeant, second shift sergeant, third shift sergeant, and there's 6 shifts that don't have a sergeant on duty. 2 of them are on day shift, 2 of them second, 2 on third. In the past, we've had that 4th sergeant work 2 second shifts and 2 third shifts. For the most part, you had coverage throughout the whole 24/7. During the day, a lot of times you might have the lieutenant or the chief to offset that 2 missing ones on day shift. The importance of having a supervisor on second shift and third shift especially is some of the calls come in late at night, and a patrolman who is not getting paid to make that decision has to make the decision right now. Since the Reform Act, the use of force reports have to be signed over by a supervisor. Sometimes if there's no supervisor on duty, that might delay something. I think it's important, especially in this day and age, to have that 4th sergeant, especially since we had one 20 years ago. Most departments, if you look around, they have 4 sergeants around the clock. There's a supervisor on working. So I would be asking the board for that position, and any costs from that position would be absorbed by savings from people moving up, myself, the lieutenant, the new sergeant, and then the new hire that we just had. So there would be no extra costs to the town if we promoted somebody for the next 5 years at least.
Any questions for Chief?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, on this one here, I think, just again, speaking for myself, I know we got the email from the chief and he kind of laid it out. I think before we proceed, I think the board, because it's a staffing personnel issue, probably should meet on it, discuss it. In case there's questions we have to ask that may not be remained open session, like for staffing, for example. I know any other time we had an issue with staffing, it's always handled through executive and then we release the minutes after. So I'm willing to, I have an open mind on it, obviously, but I'm just asking, we don't create the process tonight, so we have a chance to have questions answered. Could be no questions, we can do an executive and be out of it. Next meeting, we can move along. I don't think it's anything we have to do right away, right, Chief? If we wait a couple of weeks, it's not gonna.
I've been working on this for quite a while, so as long as we can get it through, I don't have a time frame, but I would really appreciate the board's support on this at one point.
What's the board's pleasure? Mr. Marson?
Mr. Chairman, I think, I've talked to the chief. Hey, Mark, thanks for being here on your first meeting. Congratulations. You put a lot of work into the analysis of that, and I do recognize the need to have the fourth sergeant. I mean, to Sully's point, maybe how we do that could be do that, but I think it's important that we at least open it, then at least it's there. So I move that we authorize the fourth sergeant and act on recommendation of police chief and schedule vote for appointment on next Board of Selectmen agenda or take any other action relative there.
Just so I understand the motion, you're motioning to make the decision today.
No, just to authorize the position. We're not gonna appoint anybody or anything like that. We
Okay,
can
authorize a position. Okay,
as written here.
as written. Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm just gonna reinforce it. I'm not against the fourth position. I'm against declaring the vacancy before I have a chance to have frank discussion as a board. So again, I'm not in favor of it. I'm just not in favor of starting it now, especially with the chief said it didn't matter if we wait a little bit longer.
Any other discussion? Pensive.
I just need to formulate. So if we, Mr. Chairman, if we authorize the position to be opened, we're not under any pressure to fill it at any specific juncture. I'm just thinking of a compromise, something in between that will satisfy Mr. Sullivan and satisfy people who feel a little, I shouldn't say that. So the motion is exactly what's written here on the agenda.
That's right.
Yeah.
Board votes to authorize fourth sergeant and act on recommendation of police chief and to schedule a vote for appointment on next Board of Selectmen agenda. So if we vote to schedule an appointment on our next agenda, that doesn't give us time for what Mr. Sullivan's looking for, to speak about it before we do it. Is that correct?
Yeah, executive tonight.
Yeah, but it's not public reason why.
Oh, right.
I mean, it says or any action relative there too, but once the ball's rolling downhill, it's gonna be hard to stop it. Like I said, not that, and by that I only mean the process, I don't mean the position. I'm not against the position, I'm just against the wrong word. I just want to have a chance to talk about it as a group.
I think you'd have a unanimous vote if we scheduled it for the meeting after the next meeting. Because then we could discuss this in executive the next meeting, and then the following meeting we could make an appointment. I'm just thinking of a way to make this unanimous, just because something like this, we should all be together, in my opinion.
All right, so it sounds like we have, the motion on the floor would open the position, and then we'd have to determine how to fill it at a later date. If it fails, then we don't open a position tonight, and there'll be a proposal to put it on a executive discussion at the earliest convenience.
Or making it, or Mr. Chairman, making another motion.
We would have to,
Yeah.
of course, have legal counsel at that executive discussion
Oh,
to make it, I mean, well, we would certainly want to, I've had a discussion with Mark Terry, and certainly the board would want to have the same discussion about that fourth position, and that would make it eligible to be on executive, because it would be.
Right, okay.
We couldn't
We'll
have.
do it right.
We couldn't necessarily just have a discussion in executive without
Correct.
a reason to have executive.
Sure.
Well, the thing would be staffing and security.
Yeah.
We've done it before, but I don't wanna argue about it. That's all
But
right.
no, we could,
All right,
we
so
could certainly have them zoom in, it's not.
we have a motion, a second, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
How many was that? 2? Aye, 3? Okay. Opposed?
One,
Nay?
No.
No, 2 nay. Okay.
Reason being, something like this, I just think we should all be on the same page.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I could just interject, I think we can still have our cake and eat it too and try to get something before the end of 2 weeks elapses. That way we've had at least the opportunity to make a decision that all the board members are on the same page.
Okay.
Or at least had the chance to discuss it further.
Yes.
So I'll effort, Mr. Chairman, trying to get something on the books before that 2 weeks elapses.
Okay,
That'll work.
thank you. Michelle, 3-2? All right, thanks, Chief.
thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Chief.
As the town administrator warned us earlier, the commitment letter of support for mass development feasibility study.
So, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would ask as part of that vote is that you vote, either you as the chair, to sign it. They were unclear as to whether or not they would allow the town administrator to sign it. Either way, it's a board vote. Town administrator to sign it or the chairman, but so whatever the vote is,
Yep.
one of us will sign it.
I agree. I have no problem signing if the board approves. Mr. Marcy?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the town administrator entering into a commitment letter with mass development for the feasibility study.
Got a motion?
Second.
Second, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. All right, next, board vote to accept town drone policy effective 1/23/23, having received legal review, edit, and approval dated 11/21/22.
Mr. Chairman, the town owns a drone. It's never flown it because we don't have a policy in place that had received legal review and the proper licensing and so forth to actually utilize it. So Amanda Gage, who's working diligently right now, has done that in another town she worked in, Auburn, I believe. She's fully licensed and certified and ready to move forward with that. You'll also notice that item E presents a second department that will be available to operate a drone, but they of course need to have a policy that's received legal review. And in this case, in the case of the fire department, it's received state legal advice, and through Department of Fire Services, we've pretty much adopted their standard operating procedures and applied it locally. So we're asking for you to approve the policy that's received legal review from 2 independent sources, and this SOP that will be part of that policy and any amendments that come down the road, so that we can begin utilizing that equipment correctly.
I'd be interested to see the SOP.
It's attached, right? It's in there.
Thank you. Mr. Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we vote to approve and to accept our town drone policy effective January 23rd, 2023, today, as it has received legal review, edit, and approval dated November 21st, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just one question, Mr. Chair. If Amanda's not available, will we have other people trained and authorized to use?
The policy is very, very strict.
All right,
It's
read it right
very,
now.
it's very standardized. There's constitutional issues, the easy answer is if they're certified and licensed to do so and operate it properly and trained and so forth, then that's, I believe, the fire chief can speak to it, but I think that's the road he's gonna go down as well.
Alright, just wanna make sure we have more than one person, that's all. No
Yeah.
emergency.
I prefer 3 deep, but might take a while to get there. Mr. Carmignani?
And it's insured. We have a separate policy for drone use, like notary insurance and what have you. So it's not like somebody can hop in a pickup truck. There's requirements, as the town administrator had mentioned. It's a liability. It's an awesome tool, but the people at Maya have gone through making sure that Amanda's the person to use it. Now, if we have something at the fire station, excellent. More people we can get licensed, the better. So, thank you.
It's not AI like Skynet or anything?
Not as far as you know.
Thank you.
There's plenty of that in here, just in your phone.
Probably. What's the board's pleasure?
We have a-
Discussion, right?
Yep.
We have a motion and a second?
I said-
And again, I'll just reiterate, because we'll probably get some more feedback on this. It's very strictly regulated. There's no accidental, look at what we saw, and then we're gonna, go after somebody criminally. It's very, very restricted and regulated, in terms of rescues and when it's flown and how it's logged and line of sight and so forth, so that
I'm gonna come up and put my 2 cents in.
Launch it right in here.
if it ever went to law
Right.
enforcement, they'd have to, if the police department ever went down that road, they'd have to have the same training and
Yep.
their
I-
own legal review and so forth.
Chief?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. We received the policy directly from Department of Fire Services, which is the state policy on drones. I got it right from the fire marshal. I forwarded it to Mr. Reuter immediately, and we pretty much use that as our baseline for the town policy. So I would say if it's good enough for the state, it's good enough for the town.
That's why we have our own policy attached to it, because we sent it through town council, Mr. Chairman.
All right, good. All right. I'm
And-
happy with it.
And also, I have all the information to get, we have to get licenses, pilots, which involves testing and classes, and we'll have a handful of people at the department that will be certified. I spoke with Amanda earlier, and she's willing to jump on board with us, seeing how she's already ahead of us with that, so that'll help us out immensely, too.
So the budget item for training, licensing,
A fire department expense account, or, as we used for Amanda, the cable residual account.
okay. Good. Technology. Awesome. Is that it for discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous. Thank you. Next on the agenda, James and Jennifer Best, Fire Department donation of a drone.
So they were James and Jennifer were unable to attend tonight. They kind of had an emergency last minute and they couldn't make it. So we just found that out like 5 or 10 minutes ago. So basically the story was James came down with his wife Jennifer, wanted to donate the drone to the fire department. They wanted to give back to the community, specifically the fire department, because his father, Charles, was on the fire department prior to my tenure as chief here. He was a long-time member of the department, and he wanted to, this was James' way of giving back to the fire department because his father loved it so much, so he decided to donate the drone. They did come down one day about a month ago. We took pictures with them and posted it on the Facebook page. You may or may not have seen it. And that's basically the story behind the drone. And now we're just going through the process of getting certified and licensed and getting all the policies up to snuff so we can actually utilize this. It could be utilized for a lot of things. Search and rescue in an outside area. Try to find somebody. We can use it to find brush fires, and it can be used for an array of other things. An example would be the Mace Fire. The fire marshal actually came to the scene the night of the fire, and he put the drone up a couple times to see where the hot spots were and what was where. I actually have some good video of that he gave me. If any of you or anybody else is interested in seeing that at a later date, you can come to the station and see for yourself. So we have the drone here.
Mr. Chair, while we're figuring it out, I'd like to have the Bessies come in again if we could, but at a minimum, could, on behalf of the board, send them a letter thanking the donation.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not gonna take it all out, but, because all the blades are all still apart and everything, but that's basically it in a nutshell.
Alright, so basically blades and camera system.
The camera's on the bottom.
Oh, that's neat. Cool.
Pretty cool.
How many hours of battery life?
That I could not tell you. I have no expertise in this area, and I have not read the manual yet, but we will know it when we're ready to use it. I kind of just put it in the back room until we make sure everything, because the administrator is right. They're very strict about it, and I'm not doing anything with it till we make sure we cross all the T's and dot all the I's.
Right, it's fragile too. We don't want to break it before we even get permission to use it.
As far as drones go, that looks pretty sturdy.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Nice.
Thank you to the Bessies.
Thank you,
Glad
thank
you
you,
did
the
that.
Bessies, yeah.
Chief, you think they'd be willing to come into another one just to? dig
Yeah,
in here?
absolutely. I'll have Paul get in touch with them again, and we'll have them come back. I actually said to them the day they came and delivered this to us that I thought it was important that they come to a selectmen's meeting, that they should be recognized for this, because, you know, it's great that the citizens do this for the town. I mean, they didn't have to do this. I think they really went out of their way and went above and beyond to give us a piece of equipment we normally wouldn't have gotten. It's very much appreciated.
Absolutely. agree.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't have a motion yet, did
Board to accept the, to accept the policy, the gift, I'm sorry, the
Mr.
gift.
We
Chairman,
had a motion.
Did
had
we?
a motion for the
Accept the
drone? Yeah,
gift.
I second it.
we
To
did
accept the
we
drone?
did the policy,
Correct.
We did the policy.
and we voted on that, right?
Did we,
Do we have to vote on the?
We had to vote on actually.
We have to accept the donation.
Mr. Chairman, I move
Yeah.
that we accept the donation of the drone to the fire department for James and Jennifer Bessie.
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Unanimous.
Just
Thank you.
one thing in case people weren't aware, the Bessies are town residents.
No?
They are.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
They are, okay, I was gonna say.
Mike Mayotte, Chairman of the FAA, requests to hold monthly budget meetings.
Mr. Chairman, I can circle back with Mr. Mayotte. Before, a few weeks ago, before both Michelle and I went on our vacations, Mr. Mayotte requested monthly meetings for the FAA to meet. I think the FAA is gonna have a pretty full plate over the next 3 or 4 months, so
Makes sense.
we'll revisit it maybe. He's not gonna be without a monthly meeting over the next several months, that's for sure.
Does it mean monthly with us?
No,
Does he
with the
mean
FAA.
like 12 months every year, like even outside of budget season? When they
That's why I
typically
asked him
meet?
to come in
Okay.
to
Oh,
explain
okay.
that.
All right.
So we're gonna pass it over, or we?
I don't think we need to, I mean, I think, I asked him to come in and discuss what he meant by that, just like Mr. Marcy.
We don't have to approve,
No.
he can just meet if he wants.
I just thought there would be more
Oh,
questions.
yeah,
'cause
all right.
Yeah, I mean,
You
if
can
you-
post as many meetings as you want.
You pass a May meeting, like, I'm not sure they wanna meet in June, so,
Alright.
so.
Yeah, talk to Mike.
Alright, we'll move on then, looks like G is a duplicate.
G reflects Michelle not being here and leaving me in charge, Mr. Chairman. It's a duplicate and can be ignored,
Noted.
yeah.
Half have written anyway.
Now, H, Mr. Colby Mahan, Eagle Scout Project, request to build a bridge at the Baker Pond Conservation Area on Baker Pond Road for Eagle Scout Project. Come on up to the, either you want, if you want to go to the podium, you can, or if you want to come down to the table, you can. Just gotta tell us who you are and where you're from.
Good evening. I'm Colby Mahan from Troop 273, Dudley, Massachusetts. I'm also a resident of Dudley, and I live at 176 Ramshorn Road. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm currently a life scout in the troop, and I'm working toward my Eagle and working on an Eagle project, which is to build a bridge by Baker Pond Road. Did you all receive the documents that were included into the email? If not, I did have some extras to pass out. Currently, there is a bridge on Baker Pond Dam in Dudley, Massachusetts. It is the one that is existing. It's marked red on the document, and then there's the pedestrian bridge expands over the dam, giving pedestrian access to the conservation land. There is a spillway that is located on the other side of the dam. Exhibit C shows how many people made an unsafe way to cross the spillway. This makeshift bridge will be removed. The proposed project is to build a bridge over the spillway, which is marked yellow on the documents. The bridge will be 14 feet long and made of pressure-treated wood. The bridge will rest on concrete footings. This bridge will give people access to a large piece of public conservation land in Dudley, Massachusetts. The project will include creating a hiking trail that will extend approximately 1/4 mile into the conservation land along the banks of Baker Pond. To date, I have done the following. I've contacted Mr. Andrew Levitz, the chairman of the Conservation Commission, and he has signed and approved the project. And I've also talked to Mr. Burlingame, the Dudley building inspector, and I showed him my blueprints and the project description. And I've been in contact with him and filling requirements that he has asked me to do. And I've also been coordinating with Mr. Murray, the Dudley highway superintendent. I plan on doing this project in April, and here tonight requesting permission to access the town land for approximately 2 weekends to build on. Do you have any further questions?
That's right near where Mr. Limburger built the first one, right?
That is correct.
Right, his project, so this is continuing it into that.
Yes.
It's a tough area to get in without proposed projects.
I remember that, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
What inspired you to want to do this? This is amazing.
When I first got life, the first thing I had to do was I was like, I'm gonna get my Eagle project done out of the way. So we were going through options, and I went down to Baker Pond, which isn't that far from my house, which is half a mile, and I looked at it and I saw that there's another area where people could get through and go hiking, fishing, and all that. So I'm like, why don't we just let's give them more access to the land, so build another bridge for people to cross over, make it much easier, because people are building or walking across the other one, which is super unsafe, and it's very hard to get across.
Thank you.
Mr. Marson?
This is amazing, Colby. I love this. I remember when Mr. Limburger built the first one. This is a natural extension of that, so it's great that it presented an opportunity for you to do that to benefit residents. Couple things. Have you lined up the help you'll need to build it?
I have a lot of people coming to help, or some like volunteers like my troop and some like teachers and friends from school. Approximately there will be like 15, I need 15 to 20 people, but I'll probably get way more than that.
Nice. And then have you raised money for the cost
Yes.
of the materials and everything?
I
Okay.
have. I've raised $1,100.
How much?
$1,100.
Oh, fantastic. Ready to go. Shovel-ready project is what I hear, Mr. Chairman. Nice job.
Thank you.
Nice. Any other questions for Colby? Well, it's a pleasure.
Just to clarify, it's on Conservation Land Trust land, Colby, or is it on town land?
I believe it's town land.
Okay.
Marcy?
Mr. Chairman, this is fantastic, so I'd like to make a motion that we approve Colby's request to build the bridge at Baker Pond Conservation Area on Baker Pond Road for his Eagle Scout project.
Second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Well done, Colby.
Thank you.
Good luck, Colby.
Mr. Chairman, will Colby will come back when it's all done and let us know how it went?
Yes, I will do that.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon.
PowerPoint presentation. Charts and graphs.
Shots and graphs,
I
yes.
see some blisters in your hand.
Multiple data points.
Yeah.
Shots and graphs, though.
Could add a new wrinkle to it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you, Colby. On to old business. Highway Superintendent. Update on another bridge. Colby, we might need your help with this one, too. Update on Brandon Road Mill Race Bridge.
Might need more than 15 or 20 people.
He's already got more
I
funding.
need more than $1,100.
Sorry, Jeff.
So the original bid date of the 10th of January has been extended to February 1st. There's been a good deal of interest with companies that will be bidding on the project. In researching some other information for the Quinnebog Rail Trail Grant, the town planner stumbled across the fact that some progress has been made for the final solution for the bridge, not just the mill race, but the French River Bridge, which would incorporate the flood capacity that's now available, which is the purpose for the mill race bridge being in place, with a full replacement of the bridge over the French River. So in June of this year, a project needs form went in by the state through the bridge engineer, and that was approved by the project review committee in December. So the estimated cost for the full replacement would be the $6,235,000, and those funds would likely be come from the Federal Highway Administration, so the state would oversee with the state and federal funds available for the ultimate replacement. Unfortunately, it doesn't give us any indication at this point a time frame for that. There's any of the bridge projects, as I'm sure some of you may know, are quite a lengthy process. You may be aware of the bridge on 131 and the amount of time that it's taken for that to be addressed, which is coming up pretty soon. But it is a bit of a bright spot, and we're going to be at least getting us a start with the demolition of the existing Mill Race Bridge, and then a temporary replacement when funding becomes available for that. So that's about where we stand right now.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
So, departmental communication. Chief? I'll go right to left today.
I have two things. First of all, the period of performance for the Assistance of Firefighters grant has opened for FY22. I will be writing that grant for new portable radios that'll bring us into compliance with what we're trying to do town-wide. There'll also be intrinsically safe radios, which we currently do not have, and I'll be writing that grant in the amount of $215,000 to replace all the portables on the department. They will also have dual band capability, so now we'll be able to speak with Connecticut when we go there, which we currently really don't have any capability because they're UHF and we're VHF, but this would help that. Also, we were supposed to start our new pilot program at the high school today. It got delayed till tomorrow. We're doing an elective and introduction to firefighting, utilizing the IFSTA manual. We have about 12 students Currently, it's going to be a 1-credit elective. If it goes further, it'll become a full 3-credit program. Myself, the deputy, and our safe educator will be teaching the program. I'll also have some guest speakers in there. And we're utilizing the IFSTA manual, which is the same one that they use at the Fire Academy. So we're looking forward to that. I think it's going to be a well-received program. It gives some students an opportunity to do something a little different, and it could be a good recruiting tool for us down the road.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Just a couple quick updates on the traffic construction going on in town. West Main Street, have you seen the gas company still working on the, doing some night work in front of Marty's? They got a couple more days left. The work is being done between 9 p.m. and 3 a.m. And then the gas company's also starting a project up on Ramshorn Road. If you travel on Ramshorn Road, you always smell gas. They're gonna try to fix that problem. They're gonna work through the winter. Expect some delays if you're traveling through there. They're gonna try to detour some of the traffic after school buses get through there. And you've also probably seen tree companies out trimming trees for National Grid, so there's a lot of work in town. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Chief.
Good to hear the Ramshorn Road gas. I mean, we've been hearing about that for years, so nice to hear that.
Mr. Chairman, the highway superintendent didn't mention it in his report, but we've also utilized a lot of money this past fiscal year for tree trimming. And you'll notice, like going up Dudley, Southbridge Road and so forth, where they have those big canopies and other side streets, that's been trimmed way back. So we doubled the budget this year to get some of that much needed work.
Jeff, you have anything else?
That's pretty much about it. Other than, so, yeah, obviously we're dealing with the snow and ice conditions now. We've been fortunate not to have a lot of situations to deal with, and as the town administrator mentioned, we've been doing some tree trimming of our own, as well as the power company has 6 trucks in the area that's been doing trimming and addressing a lot of the issues. We could pretty much work for the rest of the year, and there's a lot of issues to contend with as far as tree trimming. But the other thing that was mentioned too was the grant opportunities, and we're working on several of those. And the money that was mentioned will show up in my budget for a couple of the issues that the seed money or engineering and planning fees to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. And in some cases, we're actually able to utilize another grant program for the town's share of the match. So that's we're working towards getting whatever we can. That's about it.
Thank you.
Jeff?
George?
Nothing too much. We've been getting a lot of phone calls about running water around many streets. Mason Road was one of them. We're finding out that a lot of these subdivisions and buildings and multiple homes put in places has kind of disturbed the aquifer train and changed the water patterns a lot. If you go up Mason Road, you used to see a lot of water coming down from one of those. We're all buttoned up in our end, but that seems to get worse as the rain and comes, and then it gets better in that. But a lot of those around town you're going to find starting up in places maybe that they didn't before. And if you trace back, a lot of those are from where they're building houses and things and changing the runoff patterns. Another thing is we're also finding with some of this weather, we're out more and more fixing and patching sections of pipe. And a lot of these pipes were supposed to be in for permanent, just about 100 years, and they were bedded wrong with big rock put on top of them, so they punctured the pipes, and they're talking plastic pipes that are in pretty good pipe. So we're now out doing a lot of that little patch job, because with the changing of the temperatures, the frosts, moving items up and down. So that's another thing, unfortunately, we got tangled up in now. So we're probably gonna see more of that too. So if you do see a lot of water, or something, definitely call us, but a lot of times you're gonna see this now with the way we're getting rains at this point. Thanks.
Judge?
Good evening. Prior to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee meeting was held. For your next meeting, I'd like to see a line on there to accept the capital improvement planning updated plan that had been approved. This is one of the compliance issues. So I thank you in advance for putting that on for consideration. Again, for your next meeting, the Worcester Regional Retirement Board, or excuse me, system, will be asking for a vote from the executive body, from each of its members. It's with regard to a one-time 2% COLA. It's a discussion to be had. If I'll answer any questions. It's an actuarial valuation. I believe an email was circulated. Again, if there is a question on something, we can go a little deeper explaining the process on how it works so that when there is debate, it's with the best information. Next item, Hampshire Council of Governments Insurance Trust is going to have their Insurance Advisory Committee meeting on Wednesday. That's going to be the proposal for the upcoming 24 rates. Again, we have our look-back period for health insurance eligibility. It goes from March 1st to the end of February, with our open enrollment end of May for a 7/1 start. From health insurance to insurance general, the MMA, Maya had their annual meeting this weekend. So moving forward, they have done their business as a whole. So that sets our renewal process going forward. One of the things that helps with the town of Dudley's renewal is their credit program. They go through and have learning opportunities so that we can demonstrate to Maya, we are the town of Dudley, we are proactive. In the event we had an issue, we'll go through and receive the benefit of the doubt, the trainings, the policies, and hopefully our renewal is a positive one. Next item up, we're going to have our continuing disclosure updated. Anytime you have money in the marketplace, you need to have continuing disclosure. Some of it is just an extension of your audit. Some have information drawn in from other places. If you were to go through and bid on a town of Dudley bond, you would want to read this. It gives you the roadmap. The town of Dudley is prosperous, they are solvent, they are moving in positive directions, and it's backed up by empirical data. That's going to go to our FA over at Unibank for the first week in February. That's a good thing. Sorry, sort of backed myself into. We have our third quarter taxes that are going to be due on February 1st. Remember, this is going to be the one that had the unpaid water and sewer liens on them, so they're probably abnormally high. For your next meeting, we will have firm dates for Excise 1, which will be the 2023 excise bills. Those coincide with the third billing for water and sewer, so that we can have a little bit of economy of scale. Instead of having a bill due every third week, we'll get the water and sewer paired up with those excise and hopefully save a little bit of traffic through the place. Appreciate it in advance that we have a placeholder for the next meeting. We'll get everything into compliance, and that sort of dovetails into the continuing disclosure that whatever we do has been vetted and is I's dotted, T's crossed. Excellent. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Again, if there's a question on something, I have some information to love to share with the board if you're ever so inclined. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Topics of local interest, Debbie Flocka.
Hi all. Mind if I sit? I'm gonna try to do some visuals here. And it begins right there. So good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to be a little more prepared this time. So the first item I'd like to share tonight with the board and with the public is about the Dudley Emergency Notification System we're calling alerts. So one facet of effective public safety is timely communications. In other words, keeping residents informed during an emergency. Whether it's the opening of a warming station, a water boil alert, a road closure, the system keeps enrolled residents in the know. The town's service providers have changed over the years, and I heard this from residents recently, and so too have the names, such as Reverse 911, Brave, Smart 911. So when I started putting this alert publication out, people were saying, well, is it the same as? Is it the same as? Because the town has had several different services over the years. So today we are simply calling it alerts. So we ask, please enroll yourself and loved ones by scanning the QR code up on the screen or visiting the town website at dudleyma.gov. Any questions? In case you're curious, we have about 5,100 people enrolled before we started really publicizing this, which is pretty good.
And through the chair, I think if people have a hard time with going through the website and scanning, they could probably also call the fire department.
Yes, they can call the fire department. That's also a good method of getting yourself and your family members signed up for these important alerts. And also, we added a button to the home page of the Dudley website, so that you don't have to hunt around. Just open dudleyma.gov. It's right on the top of the page. You can't miss it. Okay? Another thing I'd like to mention tonight, pet parents, please take note. Dog license renewals are due in 1 week, January 31. All dogs ages 6 months or more must be licensed through the town clerk's office. The fee for spayed and neutered dogs is $20. The fee is waived up to 2 dogs for our residents ages 70 or more, which I think is great. Personal kennel fees are $50. Other conditions do apply. Please visit the town clerk page at dudleyma.gov for more information. And there's a little sweetheart up there on the screen. The Dudley Senior Center and the Common Ground Memory Cafe. One of the many programs offered in the Dudley Senior Center is the Common Ground Memory Cafe, held the third Thursday of each month from 2 to 4 p.m. This program is an uplifting and supportive social event for seniors affected by cognitive impairment, and that covers everything: dementia, Alzheimer's. Crafts, entertainment, and light meals are offered. And today, the Senior Center is presently seeking volunteers to help set up senior lunches on Mondays and Fridays from 10 a.m. to noon. This is a really important service the town provides to our seniors, and we're really hoping that there's some folks out there willing to give a couple hours, come on down to the Senior Center, and help serve some meals. Those interested are asked to contact Council on Aging Director Deb Johnson, whose contact information is found on the town website under Senior Center. Oh, and in case you haven't heard, Dudley has been named a dementia-friendly community by the Dementia Friendly Massachusetts Initiative. We're very proud of that. And it's worth repeating, and I'm sure you've all heard that from me before. I also would like to mention tonight, and thank you for your patience, I'd also like to mention that there are vacancies on the Economic Development Committee. They are seeking volunteers to fill 1 full member and 1 alternate. Volunteers appointed to this 7-member committee serve a term of 3 years. Meetings are 10:30 a.m., the 3rd Thursday of each month, I believe right in this room. To volunteer or for more information, contact Town Planner William Scanlon, whose contact information can be found on the town website under Planning Board. And the last item I have for you is some community fun. The Samuel Slater Experience. Dudley residents are invited for an admission-free visit to Samuel Slater Experience on Sunday, January 29, from noon to 4 p.m. Its more than 20 immersive exhibits bring the birth and history of the American Industrial Revolution to life. The latest admission to the museum at 31 Ray Street in Webster is 3 p.m., and the offer is limited to 2 admissions per Dudley household. And I had a couple more little things here for you. So, any questions, anyone? First of all, thank you for an opportunity to bring this to the Board of Selectmen's agenda and put out some important community information. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Student rep not here.
Snow day. Snow day.
Right here.
A couple inches don't slow us down.
What are we doing? Oh, board members' comments. Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank all the departments for an amazing job they've been doing, keeping the town going. The Eagle Scouts, Colby, amazing job. Keep up the good work. That's an amazing way to show your leadership skills. Like to also thank Highway. Great job on the roads today. Great job. Hopefully we won't have too many of these. Season's almost over, but you never know. Deb, great job. Thank you. I like the presentation. And I've been working a lot lately, catching up with the budget, how it works, everything that goes into it. What our town administrator, Mr. Ruda, puts online for us to see all expenditures, talk about transparencies. And you can go back to last year's and you can take the figures from then and you can look at this year's and compare them and see that we're really only 200,000 some odd change more this year than we were last year. I recommend everybody look at it. You get a lot of info out of it, break it down to the adjustments, the budgeted, net budget, what we've spent, the percentages. It's really gonna help coming into the budget season with the budget calendar and all the different reports that have to be put out there, the guidelines, and you know, help out, speak up. I just want to thank everybody for a great education that I'm getting here in serving you all and the residents of Dudley. Thank you.
Mr. Signatch.
Chief Garlowitz, welcome. First meeting officially as chief. Thank you. This is the last we'll talk about it. Been talking about you for like a month, it feels like. Gotta get somebody else in the spotlight. Mr. Wittroba, thank you very much for serving the town. It's people like you that keep things going. Not just keep things going, but keep things going on a good path. I have a lot of respect for you, sir. Thank you for your time. It's snowing out, folks. Be careful, be kind, and that's it.
A couple of things, Mr. Chair, thank you. Follow up on Mr. Landry. There's a meeting Wednesday of the school committee, as Mr. Ruda said earlier. I'm sure most people won't be able to attend. You should try to watch it or watch the replay. It's gonna be lively discussion because the initial prognosis is not good. Second off, we have another scout here tonight. I met him on the ride up the elevator. He's here tonight observing to get a badge. I promised him we try to be brief so we get home in time tonight, so I'm gonna try to be brief also. So I just have one thing I want to add. About a month or so ago, we had Nichols College in here looking for a management change for the golf course to run the Bison's Den. And there was some discussion up here on the board by some of us as to, there were some questions centered around safety where they're gonna use their shuttle to shuttle students, and safety was an issue, and we couldn't get answers, so there was a slight push to maybe delay approving their license, but we were given assurances by, I believe, Mr. Levine, who's the vice president up there, and someone I've known for a long time, and I stuck my neck out a little bit, saying he's never let me down, and backed up his word. And he promised that he would have answers the next day. He would reach back to Mr. Ruda with those answers, and that's been at least a month, maybe 6 weeks or more, and we haven't heard anything but crickets. Very disappointed that we helped them do their transfer. There was questions about how the golf course is gonna be run. The bottom line is, Nichols had promised virtually immediate response. We got nothing, and just leads me to be a little bit disappointed that I thought maybe with as Mr. Levine said that night, he talked to the president every day, he'd have the answer tomorrow, and he would get back to us. So it just makes me feel like we've had some progress with the folks up there through the years, and it's not a town and gown issue, but it just feels like we definitely went backwards on that one. And next time Nichols wants to come in, we've never been a rubber stamp, but I think we need to hold their feet to the fire a little bit more, especially when they make assurances to us regarding safety. We got the project coming up on Airport Road, and we're trying to work with them to make their parking lot and that intersection a little bit safer for students, for town residents, for golf, for people who play golf, people that just want to go for a walk. But I just got to publicly say it. I'm going to be disappointed with the lip service, lack of response, and I guess Nichols didn't quite take serious some of the concerns that the board members had here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marcy?
I have nothing else tonight, Mr. Chairman, just everybody be safe out there.
Thank you all for attending tonight. Thank you to the scouts for staying active and working on some community projects for us as well. With that,
Mr. Chairman, before we go there, just one more thing I want to tag on to it. The Wednesday meeting for the school committee will be broadcast live on YouTube, on the town's YouTube channel, for those that aren't able to be near their cable TV at the time. So if there's interest in seeing that meeting, go to our YouTube channel and you'll see it live.
all right. Carrie, could you take us to executive session?
Certainly. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to convene into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 39, subsection 23B, Reason 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining or litigating position. Also, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel to actually conduct collective bargaining and contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Discuss, strategize, and potentially negotiate an amendment to police chief's employment agreement, not to reconvene into regular session.
Second.
Discussion, hearing none. Roll call vote? Oh, I remembered that time.
Attaboy. Kerry Siganevich, aye.
John Marcy, aye.
Stephen Sullivan, aye.
Mark Landry, aye.
Jay Johnson, aye. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.